What's going on, everybody? Art Eddie here for another edition of the Art of Fatherhood podcast. And I love having these type of episodes. Not only talk to the dad, but I talk to one of the child, and we talk about parenting, family, all that good stuff. But we're also going to be talking about their fabulous new book. It's so great for families. It's called Zilot. It's by Bob and Erin Odenkirk. So thanks both of you for taking the time. Erin, how you doing?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for having us, Art.
Yeah, no doubt. And Bob, how you doing, sir?
Great, man. Great talking to you.
Looking forward to chatting with you, like I said, about Zillet. When I was actually had a chance to, preview and read this book, it took me back to when I was a kid. It took me back to like elementary, like library time. So I can't wait to talk about that. But I do want to talk about fatherhood and parenting. So Bob, I'm gonna ask you first. When you found out you were going to be a dad, what was going through your mind?
Uh, a lot of good vibes, a lot of hope, and a little bit of fear. The fear comes later, actually. Um, Initially, it's just excitement for me. I was a big brother. I'm from a family of seven. I'm the second oldest, and my youngest sister is 14 years younger than me. So I knew what it was like to be around kids and to help raise them. My dad wasn't really around much. He wasn't a very good role model. But I loved having little brothers and sisters, and being a big brother to them and being important in the family, as I was at that time. And I still am in my family. And so I knew I wanted kids, and I knew I wanted them before I got too old, because I really wanted to enjoy them, and also to have them see life as in a with challenges and things that you go through together.
No doubt. Thank you very much for sharing that. And Aaron, usually when I talk to dad, I'm like, what are the values that you were trying to instill into your kids? But for you, can you kind of talk about some of the things that, your dad was looking to instill into you and your brother as you guys were growing up?
Yeah, sure. Plenty of stuff. He didn't walk around with like a mantra or anything, but I just from him being him, I think I grew up really valuing having a sense of humor and not taking everything seriously. Of course, taking something seriously, but even those, you walk away from them and you can laugh at them after. Um, And another thing that I've been reflecting on a lot is the work ethic. He has a very serious, strong work ethic. And it's funny because it's about being funny most of the time, how hard you can work at being funny. But, his sort of mottos or sort of methods surround around showing up every day, doing the thing you like every day a little bit, and really trying. And you're going to fail, and that's okay, and that's part of it. But doing it again the next day as well.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my one of my kids' teachers, I have two daughters, 15 and 13. And I remember at the time, my daughter's sixth grade teacher said, like, does everybody know what fail stands for? And they were like, no, it said first attempt in learning. And that stuck with me as well. So I love the fact that, yeah, if you fail, just try and get up and do it again. So Bob,
Yeah.
you learned about what, Erin, thought about like the different values you look to instill into her. So let's flip the script. What is something that your kids have taught you about life that maybe you didn't know was there until you became a dad?
Well, I think, it's parents, oftentimes you see your kid, and there's a great Monty Python sketch where John Cleese walks in the door, and he's a lawyer, and his mom and her friends are going, look at him, look at his cheeks. Oh, look at him. He can talk. He can talk. He's saying words. And they're squeezing his cheeks and talking about him. And he's like, yes, 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 I can speak. Yes, of course. And you see your kid as a baby, or you often see them in the chapter in which they are, only they've grown and you didn't see it happen. And it's kids can remind you, if you let them, that we can learn and grow and change, and we're not stuck only being who we are right now. It's a great thing to learn. I mean, people fundamentally changing is a hard thing to do, but kids are going through chapters of their life and you have to open up your mind and see where they are now and how it's different from yesterday. And maybe you had some problems, and maybe you had some very serious challenges, but there's hope in the evolution of a person that you can see happen in front of you with kids if you open your mind to it. But it's also very easy to just be like the old ladies in the Monty Python sketch and just never really see your kids growing.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And so the next question is for both of you. Best piece of advice you received from each other. Erin, you can go first, and then Bob, you can follow. So best piece of advice you received from your dad, Erin, is what?
Oh boy. I kind of gave my favorite one away already, which is
Okay,
show up every day. But
nice. Then
I
that
think
works
another
then
one.
too. That's cool.
Yeah,
I don't
that
want to
was
put you
good.
away.
I'll give you the context, which is that I got a restaurant job this year. And before I even went in, his advice was it's going to be hard, it's going to be tiring, it's going to be boring and scary. And the best servers he'd ever known who made the most money and enjoyed their life the most were the people who learned the menu and committed to the bit. And for those 6 hours of the night were the server, not the ones who showed up and were like, oh, I can't believe I have to be here. That's one I've carried with me.
Appreciate that.
What advice has Erin given to me? My kids want us to slow down, I'd say. Both Erin and Nate encourage us, both Naomi and I, to try to slow down and smell the roses a little more. And we've taken that to heart, and we're trying. It's not easy.
Nice. Yeah, my kids have said the same thing too. Like, Dad, you need to relax. I'm like, I'll get there. And then eventually you don't get there because you keep on doing stuff. So thank you
Well,
both.
you've trained yourself to meet the day with, energy and problem solving and achievement. And the problem with just doing that all the time is you don't necessarily get to enjoy the progress or even the day that you're in because you're just hurtling forward trying to take on a bigger challenge. And there's something wrong with that, as wonderful as it is to be a problem solver and a get up and go person. There's something missing if you don't have a dimension of uh, enjoying the present moment, whatever it is.
Yeah, no doubt. Totally agree with that. And thank you very much for that. We're going to kind of finish off the interview with the Fatherhood Quick Five. But first, I want to talk about your great book you guys got together, Zilot. And I love the fact that this is a family affair. This is something that you guys did together. And this is something that started way back when they were, Erin, you and your brother were young. And I love the pictures you guys put in there. And you can tell the warmth and the care that you guys have in this book. Erin, for you, talk a little bit about how this book came to be, because everyone, especially probably in your guys' industry, it's like, you're an artist, your dad's an actor and all that. And it was like, oh, you should write a book about this and this. And it was like, oh yeah, cool. But like, how did this book come to where like,
Yeah.
we get to, it's coming out in October next month. We're recording this in September, but how did this book come to be?
Yeah, great question. It is a very specific, unique story of beginning, as you said, when we were little kids. We would, before bedtime, often read books together, or Bob or Naomi would read books to me and my brother Nate. And at a certain point, we began writing our own poems with Dad. And we compiled them all into a little book called Old Time Rhymes that we kept on our shelf, just with like a hand scrawled cover of a journal. And then cut 10 years later, I'm 19 and the pandemic happens. I have to go home from art school, and I'm in my room sitting around finishing classes. Summer hits. I can't leave. And Bob comes in and he's like, why don't we try to make this a real thing? What if you draw drawings and I write better words and, see what happens?
Nice.
I always intended to, try to rewrite some of the poems. I knew that few of them were good. I made a list of the ones that are pretty much exactly the way we wrote them together when they were little. And it's actually a longer list than I thought. I had it in front of me, and now I can't. Oh, yeah, there's like 13 poems that are pretty much what we wrote with the kids when they were little, which I think is a lot. And then there's probably about 20 that had to be rewritten a fair amount. And then there's a whole bunch more that we wrote just new for this book. But I thought I would rewrite this potentially when I was a grandfather, and I didn't know who would do the drawings. But once the kids were in their rooms for COVID lockdown, and they were doing their college classes from their bedrooms, and Erin had progressed so much as an artist, I thought, let's get to it. Let's make that a project. Part of the day is rewrite a few of these every week and see if she can come up with drawings for them.
And kind of going with that, I love the drawings. To me, like I said earlier, like it took me back to when I was reading, a poem book or just a book. I mean, there's the different places I lived and different books spoke to me. But as a kid, elementary, especially when I was living in Illinois at the time, and I would have like second grade, third grade, like reading time. And like these drawings took me instantly back to my childhood. So for you, like Erin, I know that you were saying like, all right, so pandemic happened, let's just draw this. You are a great artist. From the time you were drawing, were there certain things that you were drawing that like took you back to your childhood in that moment when you, your brother, and your dad were making these poems together?
Oh, that's a great question. Absolutely. I mean, I share in those moments. I think those moments inspired me to try to make art and draw every day. And there are absolutely little hints to all the books I read and loved and all the memories I had in my childhood rooms. I put the moon in as many pages as I could as a little ode to Goodnight Moon. There's also loads of pages with books drawn into them, and you'll notice books like The Mutts, The Peanuts, gosh, what else? Dragonology, all these books that I had as kids on rainy days, that I would, curl up with and enjoy. And it's a very, the heart of the book is for people who love words and reading and art and getting lost in those things.
Yeah. And this art and the poem and like the artwork, you get lost in that. So I appreciate that. This is for both of you. Bob, you can go first, and Erin, you can follow up. So when you're reading these books and the poems in your book, like like "Oh Shoelace, My Shoelace," right?
Yes, that's one of the originals, by the way.
So as a kid, I looked at I could see that in a different perspective than I am. This is gonna be really weird, but I'm a sneakerhead, right? So shoelaces and certain things about shoes have different meaning for me then and now, as opposed to now as a sneakerhead. But it's just funny. Like it was great to read it from different perspectives, but for you, Bob, like legacy, you always want to leave something, and this is a great keepsake that you can keep on your families, for generation to generation. Like, look what we created as a family. Maybe you guys can do something more or something like that. But what is this book in terms of legacy and a keepsake mean for you, Bob?
Oh man, it's everything. I mean, it's a dream come true. I mean, look, my emphasis is always on being silly because it makes me happy. And since I was a kid in a family with a lot of tension in it, shows like the Carol Burnett Show and later Monty Python was a great warm solace and encouragement because it told me that being an adult was kind of ridiculous. And that was a comfort to know that the stakes were, it sort of fundamentally altered the stakes of the world I felt I was living in. And, my kids hopefully didn't grow up with anything like that degree of tension. But I think it's got a lot of the ethics and things I wanted them to know that I want about life. And I think so we got to share these feelings. And keep in mind, these were written with a kid. Like I said, probably about 35 of them were all new. The other 45 were written with a kid in the room, in my lap, writing a line, writing the idea. So yes, they have there's subject matter in here that can be very quirky, and it's because a kid thought it up. And Oh Shoelace, My Shoelace is one of my favorites. It's kids are attracted to some really gross things and they love them. And in this case, I think the kid is extremely self-aware that the mother doesn't like the shoelace. And the kid doesn't care and thinks it's funny that they're teasing their mom by keeping it as their favorite thing. Um, Everybody knows what it's like to get a kid a present, and the kid opens it, takes it out of the box, and then plays with the box. and and so there's an element of that of like, why does she like that disgusting old thing? But I love the idea that the kid really secretly does know that they're teasing their parent by pretending to love this dirty old shoelace.
Nice. What about for you, Erin?
For this book as a keepsake, I think for me, it's been very impactful to have started working on this when I was 19. I'm now, I guess, 18. I'm now 22, and that's not a lot of time, but it has been also in so many ways so much time. Yeah. And even as an artist, you can see in my original sketches versus what we ended up publishing, my improvement and my ability to hone the style. And I know that that's only going to continue to grow. And so I sort of see this as a time capsule, both of my own childhood, but also of this era of my life. Something that even in 10 years, I'm going to look back on and be like, I cannot believe you did that. That's crazy. And then even when I'm, 30 or 40 and maybe have a kid of my own, something I can then share with them that's so much a part of myself as that 30 or 40-year-old, but also as myself as the 20-year-old, and also as myself as the 5-year-old. It's crazy to think about.
No, it's a great perspective that you both have on the legacy that this book will have. So again, it's such an honor to chat with you guys about this, because I love chatting with families who work together and produce something that not only is a work of art, but means something. And obviously this means so much to you guys from the time when you were little, Erin, and, into now with, like you said, the different ways you look at this book. So, the book of poems, I love it. Before we get into the Fatherhood Quick Five, like I said, I used to live in Naperville.
Yeah, can I say one more thing about that?
Sure.
We ID'd that at the core of this book was playfulness with words and encouragement to try things and to write your own stuff down. It's why the last poem in the book is about go out there and write something. And I'll tell you, I have some artwork from my grandfather that he made when he was a kid. And we live in a world where we take pictures all day long with our phones, and pictures are awesome and they'll certainly take us back in time. But I think if you want to make something with your kids that they can show their kids and say, and remember what they felt like being a kid and being with you, and what your brain was like, and what your close, intimate feelings were like together. Sit down and make a drawing and write a little something. Those pieces of paper, if they can access them and keep them in their world, will take them back in to the deepest, most personal feelings and moments of their childhood.
No doubt. I completely agree with you both. My family and I, like I said, so my wife and my daughters and I, we would do this program where we'd like set a 10-minute timer and we'd write a story. We'd each write a story separately. And then after it goes 5 minutes, we get to rate the other person's story, right? And we did that until everybody wrote the story, completed, like everyone got a chance to write everyone else's story. And then at the end, we read them. And it was funny. Like some of it kind of continued if it was a serious story in a serious way, or we might go and turn it from like a serious dramatic role or, story to like this comedic thing. So, and it's great. And we kept those. And what you said right there, like, I would love to see if my kids want to have their kids to see what, my grandkids would think of that. So spot on with that. Love that. Nice. All right. Before the Father Quick Five, I got to say, I grew up in Naperville. I know you're from that area too. I lived there from 86. I moved around a lot as a kid. I wasn't in the military or anything like that, but my dad wasn't, or mom was in the military, but loved living at that time from like Naperville from like 86 to 91. And my wife and I, well, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, she wanted to see where I grew up. And we went back in like 2001 after you graduated college, and it blew up. Like, I was like, this is Naperville. But like, for you, what are some of your favorite memories of living in Naperville?
Well, listen, we were the second house on Heatherton Drive in Crest Creek. We were in the middle of the block. So all my childhood from the age of 5.5 to like 9 was all these other houses being built. And we would just walk through work sites every day. And yes, we would step on nails and have to go home and get our feet cleaned out. But we would also take wood home and build forts in the forest with the wood from the work sites, and we climbed the stairs before there were any floors. I mean, I had a great childhood in many ways. I shared with you that my family had an instability and a tension and an instability and a tension that was unfortunate and not a great thing for a kid. But Naperville was, in its way, a great comfort for our family. The forest, the vibe of the place, the quietness of the place, and I wanted to get out of there when I was 15. I couldn't wait to leave. But of course, when you're 15, you can't wait to leave wherever you are.
Nice.
And
Thank you.
only later do you realize that's because you're there.
Thank you both very much for talking about family and the book. We're going to finish off with the Father Quick Five. Erin, you can go first, and then Bobby can finish, okay? Favorite family movie? Do you guys have one?
I will name two: Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and The Blues Brothers.
Nice.
Two of our faves.
I mean, I can't change that, although I might say Police Story with Jackie Chan. It's an action movie, but it's an early Jackie Chan.
Like, no.
You didn't love that, honey? We watched it 2 or 3 times.
I know.
I was happy to share it with you. I think it's a great one. It's got action in it, but there's no blood. It's very inventive. It's very clever. All the action makes you smile and grin. And yeah.
Grin for some people, maybe not for everybody in the family.
Well, it's really not violent at all. I mean, it's
I'll
very
give
more.
it
It's
a
more
rewatch.
Okay.
more gymnastic.
Nice. Favorite song or genre or band that you, Erin, introduced your dad to? Do you have one that you were excited to share him?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it the other day. Ty Segall. They are a rock band. They're awesome. I gave him the record Freedom's Goblin for his birthday a few years ago, and he really liked it.
Nice. Bob, what about for you? Is there like a band or a genre of music you couldn't wait to introduce her to, your kids to?
Oh, I introduced her to everything she loves right now, I think, which is an amazing thing because Erin likes some great old rock and roll. The Strokes was a big band that I played a lot for the kids. And Erin seemed to love that very much.
Cool. Describe the perfect family vacation. Did you have one, or where would it be if you guys could?
Yeah. Well,
we like hiking.
go. Yeah, we like hiking. We do. Erin, when she would come out to Albuquerque when I was shooting Better Call Saul, we really had great times there. There's great hikes. Tree Spring Trail, I highly recommend you check out if you're in the Albuquerque area, and driving up the 14 through Madrid up to Santa Fe, the old highway that takes you through the high desert. Yeah.
Nice. We recently, we're mostly from the East Coast, but we went to California this past month to go to Joshua Tree and hiking Joshua Tree and hiking here in North Carolina and like the East Coast, totally different, but still awesome. So So talk about favorite book when you were a kid was.
I read very early. I read the early Dr. Seuss books. Kick, Pass, and Run was the first book that I read aloud to my grandma. She was very impressed. Do you know Kick, Pass, and Run? It's actually not Dr. Seuss. It's just about football and baseball, and it's simple words. I loved. I just read a lot. I mean, I bought 4 books today. I read a lot.
Nice. And what about you?
Kids books. I'm sure there was plenty before this, but I think of reading by myself. I remember the Butter Battle book by Dr. Seuss. Okay. And I think of some picture books like The Very Kind Rich Lady and Her 100 Dogs. That's a great one.
Awesome. Very cool. And Bob, this one's just for you, and there might be a little pressure since Erin's here, but top 3 words you hope your kids would use to describe you as a dad. What would you like them to be?
Well, I mean, look, what do I look, they've seen pretty much every side of me, I'd say. So I can't imagine that they would have just unabashed praise. They would be deluding themselves. So I would like them to say present, which I think, that's what I would say to most parents is, can you be present? Yeah. That's a challenge in our modern world, and it's the best gift of all. I think steady, which is to say, I show up when I say I'll show up, and hopefully a good example of picking yourself up and carrying on every day.
Nice. Great 3 words right there. Again, people, make sure you pick up Zilot. It's such a great book. Like, not only for whatever age your family is, this is just a fun book, and it just takes you back to when you were a kid, and you can share these moments. Reading is a great way to bond with your kids. So again, congrats on the book. I wish you and your family continued success. But again, this was an honor chatting with you both.
Thanks, Art.
Thank you so much, Art.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great to meet you.
Really Bye. Great.